killing brush. I got him at gunpoint. Check the left over for full evacuation at this time. They're pulling them out.
911. Advise ready for camp.
Welcome to another episode of War Stories. I'm Tom.
I'm Chuck.
And I had the honor of getting our guest this week. Chuck, you got a little breather because I called a good buddy of mine and of Matt's. So for those of you who listen to both War Stories and our sister podcast, The Locker Room, you'll know Matt. And some of you who don't will know Matt from this show. Matt is a close friend of mine who's a Navy veteran and who's been on here a couple of times to talk about his experiences in the Navy. But what you may not know is Matt and I worked together for about 8 years when I retired and moved back to Southern California. And we worked together in the movie and TV business, where we both met the gentleman who is with us today, U.S. Navy veteran Dana. How are you, sir?
I'm well. I'm retired, so I'm actually really well.
Right, I know. So that's one of the things I was going to ask you about. How is retirement? You have retired. How many years? So you got out of we'll get into it, but how many years in the movie and TV business?
44, I think. I started in 77, right when I got out of the Navy. And I got a job at ABC television as a page. And so I went from, living on board ship to working at ABC television as a page on Welcome Back, Kotter and Laverne and Shirley and Mork and Mindy and Happy Days and the news and the Academy Awards and General Hospital. And it was kind of a huge change from the man world that I was living in, in the service.
Yeah. Right. So you went from a bunch of Navy guys stuck on a ship together to Hollywood, which I'm sure it's a huge culture shock, especially. So let's start here. How did you, end up getting into the Navy? Yeah, I'll bet. How did you tell us your story about how you ended up in the Navy?
Well, I graduated in 74. And my brother and I went out and got drunk, celebrating. And I came home, and my dad and my grandmother were there kind of waiting for us. And what are you going to do with your life? And I said, I'll join the Navy. So they go, yeah, right. And so the next day I went to the recruiter and I joined. I took all the tests. I called my cousin up, who was going into, I'm from Pasadena. He lives in Monrovia, and he was my best friend all growing up. And so I called him up and said, hey, I joined the Navy. You want to join with me? And he goes, sure. So he joined, and he took the test. We both did really well on the test. I could have done anything. But I wanted to be a underwater welder and go to second class diver school and whatnot. And so we both went to A school, went to boot camp together, went to A school together, San Francisco Treasure Island for firefighting and damage control, and then San Diego NTC for what we do there, welding.
For welding.
Went to basic.
Where did you go to basic?
Down at San Diego.
San Diego. Okay, so
yeah,
San Diego and the only one that's open now is Great Lakes, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
I think San Diego closed down right before Matt went in. Actually, he was hoping to go to San Diego. He ended up going to Great Lakes.
It's been closed for a while. Well, it was interesting because the barracks we're in two different barracks. One is across what's called Worm Island, where you're there for your first 6 or 8 weeks. I don't remember. And then you cross the bridge, and then you get these pre-World War II barracks, and there's a long table in the center of the barracks, and you look underneath, and people have written their names, and what year they were there, and you're getting it from like 1941, 1943.
Oh, that's awesome.
My dad could have been in the barracks, in the Second World War.
Legend has it the Marine Corps still uses them.
Really? Yeah.
I want to know where that table is.
Old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I would hope they would have seen it and not gotten rid of it, and that table still exists somewhere. Hanging or on a wall.
Yeah, I've been. They're in all the different barracks, and I've been down there a few years ago, and all those buildings are still there.
They won't destroy anything.
No, and there's like coffee shops in them, and
retrofit.
It's cool.
You know that movie, Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah.
You know that when they're in the barracks, the Marines are in the barracks, and Arlie Ermy comes in, he's yelling at him, he's singing, they're all lined up, and it's got that
the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
It's got the red floor in there. That same barracks I stayed in Paris Island. The exact same one. And it was disgusting. It's old. It's nasty. They don't destroy shit. They keep everything. They still use everything. They only get, even when you have black mold, asbestos, everything, they're like, here's a dehumidifier for the black mold. Yeah. Marine Corps stamp of approval, military grade. There you go.
It's funny. My buddy was in the Marine Corps, and he said that this was in probably the 90s that he was in the Marine Corps, late 80s, early 90s. And he said that they were still flying in Hueys with bullet holes from Vietnam.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
Vietnam.
we trained on the grinder with 1903 Springfields.
Oh, shit.
9-count manual.
Ooh, I have one.
18-count manual. Yeah, I'm looking for one, actually.
I would tell it, but
you hated it back in the day, but now you're like, I wish I had one.
Oh yeah, these were old ass weapons. They really were, and
1903.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
But we had to keep them all clean and all that, and you didn't dare drop your piece because then you had to lie down on the grinder at attention with it and stare up at the airplanes over at Lindbergh Field flying over, wishing you were on one. Here's a funny thing. We'd march right next to the fence to MCRD, and they would march right next to the fence, and they would sing GI meat and GI gravy. Gee, I wished I'd joined the Navy, and we would sing Navy meat and Navy beans. Gee, I wished I'd joined Marines. Bullshit. They'd laugh, we'd laugh, and we're marching our asses off.
You're both getting your asses kicked and singing to each
probably
other.
One of the cleanest Navy cadences that the Marines would sing towards the Navy. And the nicest.
Well, I'm sure there were other ones.
Every time we ran past our medical facility when I was in the fleet, we would mess with all the docks and stuff and sing some pretty vulgar shit.
Yeah.
Just to poke fun. And we would be running with our doc. So
now let me ask you guys this. This is something I don't think we've ever really gotten into. Now we've made jokes before about, everybody knows, there's the Navy, and then Navy likes to make make observations about the Marine Corps being the Department of the Navy, and then the Marine Corps likes to say they're the men's department.
Yeah.
We know all of it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask you this, because we've got a Marine vet and a Navy vet, and I've seen over the years there's a closer bond, it seems, between Navy vets and Marine vets, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Than say Army and other guys. So when it comes to that hierarchy, when it comes
to Army,
you're right. This is what I'm talking about.
Fucking, they're assholes.
So if do you feel like if there's an argument or a fight brewing, Chuck, are you more inclined to take the Navy guy's side over anybody else, any other branch of the service?
Is that like a hypothetical where there's an Army vet going against a Navy vet?
Yeah, hypothetically, in an argument, or if you're bullshitting, or somebody starts to crack jokes against the Navy guy, are you more likely? Do you feel like a closer bond with Navy vets than you would, say, with Army or Air Force vets?
So it depends on, I guess, who it would be. If it was John, it'd be a lot different because John.
No, I'm not talking about like just, guys that you have like a tight bond. Yeah.
If I didn't know either one from Adam and is some Navy dude, honestly, it's probably gonna go to who's in the wrong, because I've seen Marines that do some dumb shit. And if he's in my unit, all right, we're squabbling and I'm on his side. But and in the Navy guy, if he's, in my unit, or if he's my doc, yeah, I'm going to take him back no matter what. And I'm going to protect him and get him the fuck out of there. However, I do have a closer bond with Navy cats, just because that we kind of both live.
You're like cousins.
Yeah. Like the close, distant, cousins, maybe some, brother, sister stuff going on in there.
Yeah. Right.
But we have a closer bond with the Navy. So yeah, it wouldn't be far-fetched to be like, no, I'm going to stand up for the Navy dude. Because I've been on both. I've lived with both Navy guys and Army guys. We were at Fort E.P. Hill, and all the Army guys were assholes to us. They would throw shit at us while we were, marching and stuff, or we were doing maneuvers, and they would talk shit. And we were like, all right, dismount your 7-ton or whatever they were driving, which was weird, European looking, really short front end. And I was like, we're like, get out, dismount, we'll beat the shit out of you right here, right now on your own base. And they just talk shit to us the whole time, but we never had that with the Navy. So yeah, I would say it wouldn't be far-fetched to be like, no, I'm going to stand up for the Navy, because just the Army would just treat us like shit every time we came in contact with them. And that wasn't for the Navy. Not to mention all the docs, all the doctors, and I say docs, I'm not meaning doctors, I mean
you mean the medics,
the corpsmen and shit like that. The ones who run the BASs, who are out there patching you up, who are out there giving you medicine in the field, who are taking care of you better than your parents would have, because these dudes care and they give a shit.
They care.
Yeah. And then the Navy docs, the doctors at the hospitals, they take care of you too. So yeah, we have a close bond with the Navy because we work with the Navy so often. And when we're on their ships, we have a really tight bond, but we also butt heads big time on ships, fighting the shit like that. But
that's the thing. No, you put your brother and sister, you put a brother and sister in a car together,
exactly,
on a road trip, and they're going to pick at each other incessantly and drive mom and dad crazy. But you get them to a campground and some other kid starts to pick on their brother or sister, and they're like, oh, no. You don't pick on my brothers. I pick on my Dana. Do you have that same vibe with Marine vets over other veterans, say?
Oh, yeah. It's funny because whenever I see a guy wearing a Marine Corps hat, I always say Semper Fi to him and say, we gave you a ride. And, you stop and you have a 5-minute conversation at the grocery store or whatever. We have that common bond. I'll tell you something funny. My dad drove a landing craft Higgins boat, LCVP, at the invasion of Saipan, the invasion of Guam, Leyte Gulf, Langan Gulf. And he took the 77th New York Army into Guam. And I mean, he's a coxswain. He's driving the boat. He's got the ramp down, and the 77th New York at Guam, which was kind of an easy invasion, they refused to get out of his boat. So he's got 230 cals on his landing craft. And he says, you got 3 seconds to get out of the boat because I'll kill you here myself, because he's got to take wounded back.
Right.
So they freaked out and they all ran and was in the invasion. He did I think it was a 2nd Marine Division at Saipan, which was a much bloodier invasion.
Yeah,
first
Saipan
wave.
Was no joke.
No, it was. And the Marines couldn't wait to get out and go kill. They could not wait. And so my dad, and he loved the Marines. He did. And I do too. I mean, we're all brothers in arms. So
what's crazy? That boat, you said it was your father, right?
Yeah.
That he drove, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, ended up morphing into the amphibious assault vehicle, which would carry troops from ship to shore for ship to shore breaching.
Yes.
Or it was closely related to it. And that was my MOS when I was in.
No kidding.
Yeah, I was an amphibious assault vehicle crew chief, and we had the line charge clearing kit on our vehicle, which we would use to blow up minefields and things like that, or supposedly we would use them. But funny history note is that job and the job that your father had the highest death toll in all of the military at that time for war, because it was so many ship to shore breachings. And I rewrote the standard operating procedure back in 2008 for 2009 in Camp Lejeune for an updated field effects with, base commanders, generals, and shit like that, to show them ship to shore breaching capabilities and things like that, and how they've kind of evolved over the years with new technology, which wasn't so new because it was all from Vietnam with updated equipment and some, 50 cals and 40 millimeters, machine gun, grenade launchers and shit. But what stayed true is that if you're coming through a minefield and you blow your load over the top of a vehicle in front of you because they went down in the water and you blow up that minefield, you are to push them out of the way. If a vehicle goes down in front of you, you are to push them out of the way. It doesn't matter what happens to them because you have to get out of that kill zone in that kill box in the ocean because you go so slow. So it's crazy that job is probably the most dangerous job at that time, or for any ship to shore breaching, because of how slow you move in the water.
Yeah. Well, and if they could take in World War II, if you could take out the driver, you could ostensibly prevent an entire group of Marines from landing. You could take out.
That's why you push it out of the way.
Right. Well, yes and no, because, certainly in World War II, every single guy on that crew, you had 2 machine gunners, you had a coxswain, and you had a couple crews. So there's like 4 or 5 crew guys on it that can just immediately take out. They're all completely trained with each individual job. So anybody could take over the job.
They also had this thing that we had to stop using because it was sinking our vehicles. It's called a hand throttle. So you have a foot throttle and you have a hand throttle. You push the hand throttle forward and you take your hand off of it and you just steer because it's a constant go. Except they like so even if you would have taken the driver out, it's still going forward. If they're using the hand throttle, it's still going forward. However, nowadays they have stopped that because they would get stuck and accelerate and you just torpedo straight to the bottom of the ocean. But at that time you would just hand throttle it straight forward like a boat, but like a cruise.
For those of you that don't know, I mean, these are if you've seen the Pacific, if you've seen Saving Private Ryan, if you've seen anything with an amphibious landing, these are truck boats with a ramp that, they sail until they drive. And then once they drive, they drop their ramp and out you get. And these are the days when, I'll give you, I think I've mentioned this in the past, but a close friend of ours that I had growing up with me and Matt and Marco, his grandfather was in the Navy. And this was World War II. And this was the era of like what you were talking about, Dana. You're talking about your grandfather told, all of the Marines in his boat, you get the fuck out or I'm gonna shoot you.
My dad.
Or your dad. Sorry.
Yeah.
And his grandfather was on a ship and there was a small boat rowing towards their ship or motoring towards their ship. And the captain ordered the deck gunner to blow the boat out of the water. And it had women and children in it, as well as, it had all kinds of people, including women and children. And he says, blow the boat out of the water. And the guy's like, no, I'm not going to blow that boat out of the water. It's got women and children. And he goes, blow the boat out of the water right fucking now, or I'm going to kill you. And so he refused again. And the captain pulled out his gun and shot him right there on the deck of the ship, pointed at the guy next to him and said, blow that boat out of the water right now. And that guy was like, okay. He gets the deck gun, blows the boat out of the water. And the boat was filled with explosives. And it was, obviously, they were willing to sacrifice children to blow up a Navy ship. But that was the era of, if you don't do what I say right now in war, I will kill you.
Well, my dad at the invasion, because he has a mothership, which was USS Warhawk, which is a troop transport. And that's where all these landing crafts are on. They would do the landing, the invasion. And then they're off out a little bit offshore. Well, they had a suicide. There was not just suicide planes, kamikazes, but there was kamikaze boats that had torpedoes stuck in the nose. They got hit. My dad just got off watch, and instead of going to the mess decks and having a cup of coffee, he went down and hit his rack. Well, that suicide boat hit right at the mess decks, killed everybody in the mess decks, and they had to seal it up and go diving for body parts a week and a half later. You know, so I mean,
that's the thing. When it's
fucking hell on wheels,
especially old school war like World War II. Where it's not computerized and digital and all that kind of stuff. It's still asses and elbows, and granted, there's a lot of warfare now that's still boots on the ground, asses and elbows, but we have the capabilities to do things a little bit more removed. We didn't have those capabilities back then. So
well, Chuck said something.
Oh, go ahead.
Wait, Chuck said something that was funny. It's, if the boat got hit in front of you, you push it out of the way and go. Well, in boot camp, we had this boat that it was called USS Neversail. It's in concrete on the base at boot camp, and they give you a tour around, and they said, okay, you got a hole in the side of the ship, what do you do? And we're going, I don't know, we're in boot camp, we don't know what to do. They said, and your brothers are dead, what do you do? And they said, well, I don't know, was stick his dead ass body in that hole so the ship doesn't go down, so you don't die. Right. I mean, it's kind of cavalier, but okay.
Well, I mean, it's life and death for everybody else. You got to do what you got to do. And I'll tell you, Chuck, it's interesting that you mentioned that, and I thought of this. I didn't say anything, but I was watching a TV show where there's cops and feds that were making an entry into a room where they suspected a gunman was, and the room was dark and the hallway was lit, and the way it was portrayed was the federal agents, opened the door and then stopped in the doorway to scan the room with their flashlights. And then there's these cops stacked up behind them, waiting for them to get out of the doorway. And I laughed, and my wife goes, what? And I says, that was me behind those federal agents. I would have bowled them over. I'd have literally trampled them to get them out of that fatal funnel. And it's the same principle. That combat principle is still the same, which is if it's the deadly fatal funnel, you will trample the person in front of you to get out of it and get to safety and get that room secured. Same thing. You gotta push that boat out of the way. You got to get out of that fatal funnel. You got to get your guys to where they can secure that beach. Those principles just apply, whether it's World War II, whether it's the time your time in the Marine Corps, whether it's police officers on the street today. You have to adhere to those basic combat principles, no matter what.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Dano, tell us about your time in the Navy. So obviously this is the late 70s, mid to late 70s.
Actually, no, it was mid 70s. I joined in 74.
And Vietnam was still going on, right?
Yeah.
Because Vietnam didn't officially end until
June or May or June of 75. Yeah.
Right.
We all thought we were going over, I mean, that was, I'm an American. I've had somebody in my family in virtually every war except Korea since the revolution. So, it's part of our family, part of our thing. So yeah, I joined with my cousin and went to A school, and then he went on to the Barber County LST 1195, and I went on the admiral staff waiting for my comm crew, desk crew 1, waiting for my ship to come out of the yards, because that was USS Fox, which was a DLG guided missile frigate, but then they changed because of the Russians and how many cruisers they had and blah, blah, blah. They changed her designation to cruiser, so she was now CG-33, USS Fox. And so I came aboard her. I was on the admiral staff just doing nothing, living in a barracks.
So you were literally just waiting for your ship to be...
Waiting for my ship to come in.
Right.
Right. And so she finally came in, and a month and a half after I went aboard, we went on Westpac. And my ship was one of the very first ships that went on Westpac to do an Indian Ocean cruise.
Can I explain? Go ahead, Chuck.
real quick, a
Yeah.
Westpac, that's a
Oh, I was
view
going to
of
have
the
Dana.
Pacific
Yeah,
Coast.
explain it. Mhm.
Yeah, and they
Oh.
hit all the Pacific Coast stuff. They can go to Australia, they can go to Hawaii and stuff like that. All the Pacific Coast up to Okinawa, they will go on a Westpac. Just so for people who
Yeah,
are
the
like,
listeners.
what the heck's a Westpac?
Yeah.
It's just a Western. It's the Pacific Ocean cruise, basically,
Right.
that the Marine Corps uses for a Marine Expeditionary Unit.
It's your
to be
patrol area.
available and ready. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we went Hawaii, Subic for Christmas of 75. Then we weren't allowed to go to Singapore yet because you're supposed to be a shellback before you go to Singapore. Anyway, so we went around the Malaysian Peninsula, and then we were supposed to go to Sri Lanka, but there was a civil war going on, blah, blah, blah. And so we
wait
went
a minute,
to
back up.
Karachi.
I didn't know that. You weren't supposed to go to Singapore until you became a shellback.
No. The Navy's not supposed to go to Singapore unless the ship has crossed the equator.
Wow.
That's just kind of
what a shellback
unwritten
is for
rule.
those now. For those,
Yeah, we've
listening.
covered
The
that, but you can explain it again.
Yeah, well, the domain of the Golden Dragon is when you cross the international date line, which we did, and then a shellback is when you cross the equator, and you have a huge ceremony, and you crawl from the forecastle to the fantail on your hands and knees, and the shellbacks, you're a polywog, and then the shellbacks have fire hoses, which are called shillelaghs, that they smack in the ass, and you have to eat not using your hands off your tray with Tabasco and all that. Luckily, I like Tabasco, but big ceremony, huge 2-day ceremony.
Right, King Neptune is there.
Yeah. And the royal baby, you suck the cherry out of the royal baby's belly, grease the belly button, and yeah, it's
good times.
It's good.
So I didn't know that. It's interesting. You're not supposed to. Navy doesn't take you to Singapore unless you're a shellback.
Yeah. Well, that's what they told us anyway.
Oh.
So then we went to Karachi, and that was an armpit. Because we're in the Indian Ocean at this point. We went from Karachi to the Gulf of Aden, which here is an anchorage of Russian ships. And they basically didn't move, but because we had Russian trawlers that were following us, we had 2 little destroyer escorts with us, and they were following our every move. And so we said, "Well, the hell with you!" And so we did figure eights around these Russians that were at the Gulf of Aden. They stupidly, we went to general quarters. Stupidly, they trained their guns on us, which they shouldn't have done. And so that immediately sent us to general quarters. I'm the number 1 fire nozzle man in number 2 fire room. So I've got a nozzle in my hand, my shirt's buttoned up, and my pants are tucked into my boots and all that. But so the Russians did this with their guns on us, and we could see these guys. They're very close. So we put missiles. We didn't launch missiles, but we put them on our missile racks, and we pointed them at the Russians. We would have taken them out, big time taken them out.
Right, missiles against guns. It's not really a contest.
No, it's not a contest. And the Russians kind of capitulated, and we, my captain said, go take your skivvy shirts off. If you're not actually doing anything at general quarters, take your skivvy shirts off and go wave at the fucking Russians. And these are Soviets. I mean, they're Russians, but so we went up, we took our skivvy shirts off, and we waved at the Russians. They took the Russian sailors took their blue and white skivvy shirts off, and they waved at us. It was sailors saying, "Hey, we don't want to die today. We're all sailors here. So just let us go our way without us killing you," And it was a big international incident, but nobody ever heard it. Nobody ever knew about it, And then
you don't want to publicize that stuff.
No, they didn't want to publicize it, And then we went on our way, and we went to Seychelles and crossed the equator and did that, and then to Reunion, then to Diego Garcia, which there was no women on Diego Garcia. They put us on a landing craft, took us. We had a big ship's party with a bunch of beer, and got in a big old fight, and then hamburgers, and then went back to the ship, and then went back. Then we went to Singapore.
We got a fight, and then we had some.
We had a chicken.
Yeah, right. Beers, then fight, then food. Yeah,
hamburgers.
Well, here's the thing: with no women, all that tension has to go somewhere.
Yeah, but see, but if you're stationed on Diego Garcia, you were stationed there for 11 months, then the Navy would send you anywhere in the world for a month you wanted to go, because there's no women. Now, they have coconut crabs on Diego Garcia that'll bite your foot off. They also have the great white shark spawning ground, so you can't go swimming. Okay?
Yeah, those coconut crabs, I see pictures of those things. They're enormous.
Yeah, and their bite is like it can bite your foot off.
What the fuck is
so you don't. So
it's yeah. I've seen them, and you can see them like attached to the sides of buildings or the sides of trash cans, and it looks like some alien creature had made babies with the king crab or something. They're enormous. They almost look like the world's most armored spider with pincers. They're these things are
exactly
crazy big.
Well, if they can bite through a coconut, right. Hence the name, right?
And they use that giant pincer and they just snap it in half. And if you could do that to a coconut shell, you could do that to somebody's ankle bone, no problem.
Oh, yeah, that looks like a tarantula.
Yeah, it doesn't it? It looks like a giant armored spider with a pincher.
Blue and red tarantula.
Yeah. They're crazy.
Against coconut.
So how do you see them? Yeah. Are they fast? Do you just see them kind of hanging out and you're like, okay, just avoid it? Or like, you ain't getting snuck up on by a coconut crab. They're not like ninjas or zombies.
Sleeping on the beach drunk,
right?
Wake up with no
leg or no arm.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, then we went. We went to Singapore for a change of command. Had the ship painted and then back to Subic. We were in Subic on and off a lot. We went through 2 typhoons.
What's that like?
Well, I mean, we loved it. Once we were at sea. We were at sea for one typhoon. We were in Subic, inboard a little destroyer escort, and we knew that the typhoon was coming. We're all drinking in town at Tipsy's Hideaway, and we had Cinderella Liberty because we knew the typhoon was coming.
What's Cinderella Liberty? You get turn into a pumpkin at any minute, and they call you back to the ship.
Yeah, you have to be back on the ship by midnight. And so we got back. We're all drunk. My chief, because I was damage control, so my chief is sitting in damage control central. Chief never monitored damage control central, but because of this typhoon and this little destroyer escort was banging us like this and put a split in the seam of our ship. Mm-hmm. And my ship was 540 foot long, and little destroyer escorts are not. They're like 250 feet. But anyway, so he says, Macduff, go get your dungarees on. I'm hammered. Go get your dungarees on and go down to number 2 fire room because we got shoring watch. So I go down there, and I'm sitting there. They've shored it up with wood because there's a split and there's water coming in and whatnot. Well, anyway, so I was here for about 4 hours, went and got a few hours sleep, got wakened up in my rack and said, Macduff, put your dungarees back on. You got P250 watch because we lost the load. It means the ship went dead. Okay. So if the ship goes dead, you got no fire main. That means you have no water pressure in to put out any fire that happens on board the ship. And so you are. So what you have are these pumps called P250 pumps that pull seawater out of the ocean, pumps it into the fire main, so you have fire main pressure. Well, this second class MR, machinery repairman, Skip Watkins, God rest his soul, they put us out on the fantail with the P250 pump to keep it running in the middle of the typhoon. We did that. We were lashed together.
Really?
Yeah, and we kept that P250 pump running for 24 hours.
Damn.
That's my Typhoon story in port. Yeah, it was tough. It was very tough. They bring us coffee and a donut, and the Typhoon would just take the coffee right out of the cup as soon as they hit the leather deck. Yeah.
Now, the lashing you together, was that so you were the Typhoon?
That's so we didn't get blown over the sides.
I was gonna say,
yeah,
that's what it seems like. And what you're wearing your dungarees and like raincoat.
It wasn't hot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, it wasn't cold. So, I mean,
right.
But we were soaked to the skin, of course, all huddled, bundled together, Anyway.
So then you've
but
carried
I mean,
all of
that's
these.
what happens.
You've carried all these experiences with you throughout your career. We talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but you had said that being a veteran, having been in the Navy, it even affected and had influence on your career in the motion picture entertainment business. And I'm assuming this is the same for a lot of veterans who get into a career where they work. For example, I know, Chuck, you meet cops and you meet firemen and stuff like that. You have a certain level of a bond with them. Then you meet cops or firemen who are veterans, and then you meet cops and firemen who are Marine veterans. It creates different levels. So Dana, you were saying you had that same kind of experience and it stayed with you through your career in film and TV.
Yeah, well, I was a prop master in the movie business, and luckily my Navy experience, because being what's called a HT or hull tech, hull maintenance technician, it's you're a jack of all trades, master of none. You can fix this, you can fix that. If it's not electrical, you can fix it. And that helped me in the movie business, because being a prop master, every day is a different day. But whenever I go onto any movie set, and I've been in this business for a very, very long time. Whenever I hit a movie set, within 2 days or 3 days, I know virtually every veteran. Doesn't matter, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard, doesn't matter. Every veteran on the set, and like, say there's an electrician, and he's a veteran, he's wearing a shirt or a hat or whatever. Say, hey, dude. And he goes, yeah, somebody else, he's a veteran. And so you get to know them all. And the veteran in each department is the guy that I would go to if I needed something from that department. And if they need something from me, like beer, usually, they would come to me, because they know that I'll always say yes to them. Or if I can't say yes, I will do whatever I can to make their need happen, and they will do the same for me. It's very unwritten. And if you're not a veteran, you don't even know about it,
Right.
Right. Yeah.
It's like working with Matt,
Right.
Because I'll just say to Matt, hey, I need this. Done.
Right.
Without even.
There's a level, I think, of that, which is that shared experience. Like, you've been through basic, they've been through basic. You've been through the same mindset training, and you've had your brain altered to think a certain way and deliver on a certain way and be reliable a certain way. I think that's probably a big subconscious, but like, we don't consciously think, okay, this guy is a veteran, so he's da 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 da. It's just that you instinctively know. Like, I just went to some training for my new job that I'm about to start, and there were some guys in the class that were retired firefighters and retired law enforcement, and then there were other guys that weren't. And I was able to communicate, and I was able to develop a camaraderie and a bond with the firefighters and the police officers instantly. Like, within, it was only a 3-day class, but by lunch of the first day, I had friends, and I think it's an unspoken, we know each other's mindset without ever having met each other. and we know kind of how they think. We know how they operate. We know we can rely on them. And it's actually kind of weird to meet a police officer or a firefighter where after an hour or two of knowing them that you're like, this fucking guy's an idiot. But it does happen. There are some. So I can imagine it's probably the same way for you, having, spent 40 plus years in the film and TV business. You might find veterans where you're like, this guy's an idiot. But for the most part,
sure.
you just knew you could depend on him.
There's a lot of idiots in the military. But each one of those guys signed a check with their life at the, to give their life. So, God bless them.
It's something that Dana said that he would go out and seek the vets when he was working, and then those would be his points of contact. Well, vice versa, it happens the other way, like he was saying, but in law enforcement, because I had the pleasure of being a vet and in being in law enforcement, you would have supervisors who were law enforcement, yes, they're law enforcement, but they were vets. Doesn't matter what branch of service, and then they would find the vets out in their division or their station or whatever, their department. But when they would come on scene, they would gravitate more towards the other vets that they knew, because they knew they could communicate with them. 1, 2, they knew their mindset already. And so they would come to, I would have a lot of supervisors who were veterans or, currently in the reserves, come up to me and be like, hey, this is what we need. This is what we're going to do. And even some that weren't, but knew that I was a vet and I was law enforcement and, squared away, they would come up to me, supervisors, because I was a vet, and they would give me the more of the responsibility. And it was kind of this weird thing. And you would watch supervisors who were Army, Navy, Coast Guard, whatever. And the way that they would speak to just regular officers, police officers, and then the way they would speak to the vets, completely different. They were harsher with us because they knew that we could take it. And we knew it was ribbing. They would rib us, and every once in a while we would give some ribs back, and we'd be able to trade blows back and forth, but in like a playful, type of way where you're not getting butthurt, they're not getting butthurt. And you have this weird unspoken bond, that it's just unspeakable. And it's like the military underground, the veteran underground. And then there's a separate one for each individual branch. We would call it, in the Marine Corps, you have the Lance Corporal underground. They know everything. All Lance Corporals know everything, because it's like they're gossip queens. They want to know everything. They need to know everything because, it is what it is. But then when you get into like other businesses and things like that, each branch will have their own underground aside from the regular veteran underground.
Sure.
And then it's totally different, but it's so crazy that what he was saying, like, I would go seek them out. They would seek me out. It's the same thing everywhere you go, law enforcement, firefighting, any other job. They will come and gravitate more towards those vets because they already know like who they are without knowing who they are, because they've all eaten, slept in the same shit.
Exactly. And I'll be at the grocery store and I'll see a 75, 80-year-old guy wearing a Navy hat. And I don't say, hey, thank you for your service. I'm sorry, but I don't like that. I'll just say, hey, I like your hat. I wear the same hat. And they go, cool. And you shake hands. What ship were you on? Right. I was on this. I was in Korea. Blah, blah, blah. The same stuff, and it doesn't, there's no age thing at all either. Mm-hmm. I'm better than you because I'm younger than you. And no, you were in Korea, really? Or you were in World War II? I mean, I met a man one time that was 442nd Go for Broke, the Japanese battalion over in Italy. He's wearing a Go for Broke hat. And I got choked up thinking, this guy fought in Italy, and they were the most decorated unit in Second World War Army. That's strong. That's strong shit. And I'm proud to be a member of the same military. These guys,
same legacy, right?
Yeah. There's a great book. Everybody should read it. I think it's called Last Stand of the Tin Can Sailors, and it's about Taffy 3, where the Japanese pincer movement for the invasion of Leyte And it's one of the best books you'll ever read by, I can't remember the guy's name, Hornbucker or something like that. Anyway,
what's the
just got it. Last Stand of the Tin Can Sailors.
Okay.
It's about
it's James D. Hornfisher, Last Stand of the Tin Can Sailors. Yeah.
It is fantastic. Everybody should read it and understand about what these men did. I mean, unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, so we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you, since you worked in TV and film, I'm sure some of our listeners would like to know, what was your favorite TV show or film that you worked on?
I think my favorite one was a thing called Badass with Mario Van Peebles. Okay. My dad was an actor after he got out of the service. He went to the Pasadena Playhouse, which was a school at the time, and he became an actor. And you saw it growing up on TV. You saw him, my dad, and I was pretty proud of that. He was also friends with a guy named Melvin Van Peebles, who was
Mario's dad.
Yeah, he was very key in the black movie business, and he was friends with my dad.
And if you guys don't know who Mario Van Peebles is, you should, because everybody listening to this podcast had better have seen Heartbreak Ridge.
Right.
Because Mario Van Peebles was the punk Marine rock star in Heartbreak Ridge that ends up being squared away and ends up earning the respect of Clint Eastwood's character. So if you haven't seen Heartbreak Ridge, go see it.
And so I prop mastered Badass, and Mario and I were the same age, and he and I, because our dads knew each other, he and I got on like a house on fire. We had so much fun, and it took place in the early 70s, and so it was very challenging for me to get all the props from the 70s, and it had a lot of really great people in it, and great actors and whatnot. And Siskel and Ebert said it was one of the 10 best movies of, God, I can't even tell you. I think it was like 94, 90. No, I'm sorry. 2000 or something like that. I can't even remember, but I think that was my favorite movie to work on. Really, really good. And
did you find that if you knew an actor, because there used to be lots of actors that were veterans. I mean, Clint Eastwood, Tom Selleck, some of those guys. Oh, yeah. Even what's his name from Star Wars, Kylo Ren. I cannot remember his name to save my life. He's a Marine.
He was a Marine.
Yeah. So did you find that actors you would get on well with actors who were veterans or no?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you look at the old actors that, like Eddie Albert, he was an absolute hero in the Battle of Tarawa. He was a hero at Tarawa. I don't know if he was a Marine or he was Navy. I think he was Navy, but, and like a Lieutenant JG or something like that. But anyway,
Scotty from Star Trek took like 5 or 6 machine gun rounds that the Normandy invasion had. If you go watch episodes of Star Trek, you'll see the chief engineer of the ship. They hide it, but one of his hands is missing a finger that got shot off during the invasion of Normandy.
Yeah.
So I was just curious to know if like actors, if that made a difference with them at all.
Yeah. And it's fun to go on Wikipedia and look up, actors who served, and it gives you more respect for him. It gives me more respect for him.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Adam Driver. I knew I'd get it.
Adam Driver, right.
Yeah, the guy from Star Wars. He was. For those of you who don't know, Adam Driver was a Marine or is a Marine. And he's
Jimi
even given a talk. Jimi Hendrix was airborne, right? 82nd Airborne.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, yeah, I know he was in the Army.
I knew he was airborne. I can't remember. Yeah. But it's crazy the kinds of people you'll see. I don't know that it's as prevalent today as it was
It's
back
not.
when everybody served. But well, Dana, we appreciate you. Oh yeah,
that are Marines, and one that has probably I have the most respect for, other than Adam Driver, is what's his name? He was in was it Step Brothers? He's like, I'll eat your D like Kobayashi sausage. No. That guy.
Rob Riggle.
Rob Riggle. He's like a fucking lieutenant colonel or
he was a light colonel.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Rob Riggle was a light colonel in the reserve. I think he was a light colonel in the reserve.
I don't know if he went in active duty, did his 4 years, and then got out and did the reserves, but he did a full career in reserve,
even while he was acting.
While he was acting, which is crazy. And I'm like, wow, this guy's like probably one of my most favorite actors or comedic actors, because the stuff that I find funny, he puts out on the big screen, and he's crude about it. He's nasty about it. I'm like, I love everything about this guy. He is what I would like when Marines are joking in the barracks and stuff like that. The shit that comes out of his mouth would be the same stuff that would come out of other dudes' mouths. And you're like, how is this on the screen? Like, this is awesome.
If you don't know who Rob Riggle is, 21 Jump Street, he's the drug dealing PE teacher coach who gets his dick shut off at the end of the movie. That's Rob Riggle.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Big dude, real funny. Rob Riggle, it was a light colonel in the Marine Corps. Wow. And he's a pilot. He got his pilot's license and intended to be a Marine pilot, and then decided to pursue comedy. But even though he pursued comedy, I guess he decided to stay in the Marine Corps Reserves, and ended up doing a full career light colonel, all that stuff. So that's, that stuff like that's really cool to me.
Yeah, it is.
Well, Dana, we always give our guests a chance to dedicate their episode to a brother in arms or someone they served with who has passed on, and you have somebody that you would like to dedicate your episode to, correct?
Yeah, that'd be Skip Watkins. His real name was Harold. He was a yeoman. He was a second class yeoman, and he was a big guy too, tall. He didn't like being a yeoman, and yeoman is a paper pusher, works in the ship's office, types up shit. And he didn't like that, and he was a second class, so he changed rates to machinery repairman, MR, and he went up. He was a guy I was lashed to in that Typhoon,
right?
Doing that P250.
That'll bond you together, literally and figuratively.
It did, and he got out of the Navy as a chief warrant officer, and I put a reunion on for our division, our berthing compartment division, A gang, E division, which electricians, and R, which is repair, was what my division was, and 25 guys from around the country came, and we went to the Sheraton's Harbor Island in San Diego in 2018, and he was there, and it was fantastic. He got out of the Navy. He retired from the Navy and then went into the post office and finished. He passed away last year, and very sad, but he was 71, 72 maybe.
Yeah, but you
great guy.
I was going to say you got to spend a reunion with him, so that was I'm sure that was a great experience for both of you. So
Skip Watkins, great guy, great guy,
well,
and
rest easy, brother.
Good Christian guy too. And we had a guy named Bobby Carl on board our ship. He was in my division, and he was very instrumental in a lot of us. I was already a Christian, but strengthening our relationship with the Lord and whatnot, and Skip was a big part of that too, and so
it's always nice when you have those guys that you can share that with. I know whenever it's one thing. It's kind of like when you meet somebody from the same branch of the service, when you meet somebody that shares the same values and religious beliefs as you can talk to them differently, and you can hold each other accountable differently. So that's always a good thing.
Exactly. In fact, at that reunion, we had a Bible study, and everybody came.
That's awesome.
Because two of the guys became ministers And one of the guys, Marley, Mardog, as we called him, we all had nicknames. I was Mac. Everybody had a nickname. But Marley got out of the Navy with the help of Bobby Carl, found the Lord, and became a minister and the mayor of Chino Valley, Arizona.
Wow.
Became the mayor, and just a wonderful guy. It's a pleasure to see that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So
you think about all the if you looked back at some of the great things that our veterans have gone on to do, and you think about, you know, the legacy, it's sad for me to see what's happening to the military currently. And we could spend another hour talking about that, so we won't. It is no surprise to me. I'm sure it's no surprise to you, Dana, and I know it's no surprise to Chuck that you're seeing stories come out about the military not being able to meet their quotas for recruitment and stuff like that, and how they're losing people. And for those of you young guys that are not thinking about joining, I completely understand why you don't want to join a military that's more worried about inclusiveness than it is about, you know, readiness. So
yeah, I
good way to put it.
I think a lot of the decline right now, because I have a friend that I met through law enforcement who is a recruiter for the Marine Corps, and he was explaining, he's like, it's so hard to get people right now because the ones who are graduating have, and this is during COVID, obviously in California, COVID's still a really big thing with schools and stuff. He goes, they've been on the couch, they've been on the internet for the last 2 years doing their schooling or whatever. They have no social skills whatsoever, and they're basically like that one hermit who sits in his mom's basement and talks shit online all day. And he's like, we're running into a lot of that because they don't have any concept of reality, because they've been in this virtual world of school and everything and no contact for the last 2 years. He goes, it's so difficult to get these guys. And then the ones who really do want to do it, he goes, now we have to try to get them in shape because they're so out of shape because they haven't been going to school. They've been sitting on their ass for the last 2 years, eating and not exercising, not even going outside. He's like, we're running into a lot of that. So.
And if you've been doing school online and haven't had much communication with the outside world in person, hey, nothing's going to cure that like going overseas. You know, there. and I'm going to tell you that if you're having a maturity problem, for those of you parents that have teenage kids who are hitting that age of get the fuck out, you know, nothing's going to grow them up faster than a hitch in the Navy, or, you know, some serving in the Army, or spending time in the Marine Corps. You know, it's a life altering experience, way more than anything else could possibly be. And 99 times out of 100, it's for the better.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
My kids understood. You get out of high school, you are either going to college full time, you are working full time, you are working part time and going to school part time, or you're going into the freaking military. You will not be sitting on your ass making chocolate thumbs trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life. You're going to actually get out there and do stuff that's going to help you decide what you want to do with your life.
Just a quick anecdote. My brother's son, my nephew, lived in Reno and was in meth. Bad time meth.
Oh.
Everybody in Reno is in meth, right? Well, after my dad passed away in 2007, he came to the memorial service and decided to put himself into rehab out in Temecula. Okay, so he did for a month. My brother would not let him back to Reno, where my brother was living at the time. So I put him on my couch. I have a 1-bedroom back house. I put him on my couch, got him a job, got him in the gym, and didn't buy him a car or anything. My best friend, Don, who's a Vietnam Marine machine gunner, M60 gunner, he's 74 now. Anyway, he lived in this middle house. I lived in the back house. A buddy of mine from the Navy came and was staying with me. We talked my nephew into joining the military till 4 o'clock in the morning one morning. And he went down, didn't want to go in the Navy because the recruiter was an asshole. Went in the Coast Guard. They asked him, what about drugs? He says, I just put myself through rehab. He says, was it court ordered? No, did it myself. They took him. He's 13 years in the Coast Guard now.
Wow.
He's flying. He's out of Sacramento. Bought a house in Sacramento. Got a lovely little girlfriend. He is squared away. He's a second class, going for his first class. I couldn't be more proud. He's a winner, and I'm a winner.
There's no better anecdote to prove the point than that right there, because that just. Well, Dana, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you since I left SoCal. I know. And I would tell you to give Matt my love, but you won't see him either because you are honorably retired from the movie business. Are you going to day play at all? You going to go back and do little things?
No.
Attaboy. Well, good for you, man. Good on you. And Chuck, why don't you finish this up?
Yeah. Hey, thank you all today for listening. If you like today's podcast, please go follow us on our Instagram at war_stories_official and our Facebook at War Stories Podcast. If you already follow us and share our posts and our info, you can also go to the link in our bio on Instagram and Facebook to reach all of our socials, our media, and our website. Our podcast is on all major platforms for streaming podcasts on YouTube. If you want to support us, please go to our website at www.warstoriesofficial.com. Grab some gear. We still have some Whoopi hoodies, shirts, patches, stickers. The tank tops will be coming soon. Pre-ordered hats will be coming soon. It's taking a little bit just due to the simple fact that I've been dealing with a lot of newborn stuff. So bear with me and bear with us. We will get it out there. And if you guys really dig the design, possible shirt, zip up hoodie, that'll all be, we can do pre-orders and stuff like that. So let us know. We'll be doing, we covered that. If you want to be featured on a show and think you have a story or want to share a story, please go to booking.warstories@gmail.com. You can also get that in the link in our bio and send me your story. I get you booked. We are looking for law enforcement, corrections, dispatchers, fire, medics, and veterans. If you have a friend who you think would be a great fit, let them know about us and give them our booking email. And if you've already been on the show and you want to come back on the show, don't wait for me to get in contact with you. Just shoot me an email, be like, hey, I was on, I would like to come back on, this is the story I have, or I would love to come back on, and we can talk, and I can even call you if you give me your phone number, and we can get you scheduled that way. So don't wait for me, contact me. It's been a bit hectic. It's still going to be a bit hectic for a while, just trying to get back in the rhythm of this newborn lifestyle stage. Regardless if I have this my fourth one, it's still a culture shock every single time. So again, thank you for the support. Stay safe.
All right. And until our next episode, come home with your shield or on it.